And those are some of the headlines. This is Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, The War and Peace Report. I'm Amy Goodman.
And welcome to all of our listeners and viewers. We're going to go right now to the latest news in Israel, but first we're going to go to BP. The Justice Department has confirmed it's opened a criminal and civil investigation into the BP oil spill in the Gulf Coast, now believed to be the worst environmental disaster in U.S. history. For residents of southern Louisiana, the spill is impacting the ecology, the economy, and entire ways of life.
Over the past several days, we traveled across the bayous and towns of coastal Louisiana, meeting the people of the front lines of the onrush of BP's oil slick. On Sunday, our day began in the air.
I'm Amy Goodman reporting to you from a cargo and transport plane of the U.S. Coast Guard, flying over the BP catastrophe, the worst environmental disaster in U.S. history. We see when we look down the hundreds of miles of Gulf with the sheen of oil. Either the red brick oil sludge is what it looks like, or the sheen of oil. In an odd way, it looks like a map with the borders of countries, but this oil knows no borders.
Chambers. I'm a public affairs specialist at the U.S. Coast Guard. We are looking at a massive amount of oil that's spilled into the Gulf of Mexico. You're seeing the thick ribbons of that red, brick red oil, but you're also seeing a lot of sheen oil and emulsified oil. That brick red stuff is the stuff that we're really going to be able to clean up the most easily. It's collectible, we can burn it, or we can skim it.
What about the dispersant? Then you don't see it as clearly, but it's there underneath.
Yeah, I don't know if we can see the dispersant from where we're flying, but yeah, the dispersant is going to be mixing with that oil and going into the water column. It's not going to be sitting on top of the water.
Are you concerned about the effects of the dispersant?
Well, I don't know enough about it to be concerned one way or the other.
You've dealt with other oil spills?
I have.
Is this the biggest?
Well, yeah, I think everybody's aware this is the biggest in U.S. waters. This is not Exxon Valdez, which I never worked on. I think the largest oil spill I've worked on so far is about 250,000 gallons. That was the Mississippi River 2 years ago. So of course, this trumps that by far.
Your ID says BP. Why is that?
Well, actually, if you look here, you'll see it says U.S. Coast Guard Federal. It identifies who I am. As we've been trying to make clear, we're part of the Unified Area Command. That unified is important because it means that we are working with BP closely, we are working with MMS closely, and we're working with all of our other agency partners to make sure that this gets cleaned up as soon as possible. You'll see that my photo is taken. This process is owned by BP because we're using a BP facility.
What's the BP facility?
Well, let me clarify that, actually, because it's a shell facility being used by BP that's just tracking personnel so they know who's coming and going. The reason why the Coast Guard isn't working alone, because the Coast Guard can't solve this problem alone. It's going to take the industry. They're the experts. They have the scientists and the engineers who can get this closed. We're here to oversee and make sure that it's done properly and safely.
After we landed, the cargo and transport plane landed at the air base in Hammond. We began driving toward Grand Isle, the site where President Obama had just visited days before. We met with Dean Blanchard, the owner of the largest shrimp business in the area. He took us out on his boat. This is Barataria Bay, the most fertile fishing ground, says Dean Blanchard, in the United States. And we've come up to Queen Bass Island. It's a bird sanctuary. It's just covered in oil. Dean, what kind of birds are here in these oily marshlands?
You got hundreds of birds, but mostly right now what you're seeing is seagulls and pelicans, our state birds.
What happens to them when they get covered in this oil that's just on my neck?
Oh, they're going to either die or somebody will find them and they get cleaned up, you know. But if they're left to nature, they'll die, you know. They can't fly. It'll mess up their flying. If this would have happened a month ago when the birds first got here, you'd had hundreds of species of birds out here. We had a bird watcher convention about a month ago down here.
Is there dispersants on my hands too?
I wouldn't eat with them without washing them, and I'll wash them real good.
What's that?
That's a fish finder. That'll tell you everything that's on the bottom. They got a piece sticking up. You see that's all underneath right here. See this? There's these globs of oil that's mixed with the disbursement just float.
Underneath the water.
Underneath the water. They're sinking it so nobody could see it. You want to go in the beach? The beach is right around that corner right there.
Oh, what's that in the water?
Looks like a dead redfish. He got caught in the oil spill. The redfish that size usually live in the Gulf. So he's coming in with the tide. The tide's switching right now. So it won't be long for the oil. It'll be right behind the fish. I don't think it's going to be inhabitable after this weekend. I think we're going to have to leave our homes. We got fishermen getting sick on a boat in the middle of the oil. What's the difference of being on an island in the middle, surrounded by oil, or being on a boat out there? You understand? So we're gonna have to leave. You won't be able to stand the smell, and no telling what how long before you're dead.
If you left, how long do you think you'd have to be away for? When do you think you'd be able to come back and be fishing again?
Maybe never. I don't know. In Alaska, 20 years. I'll be 70, 71 years old. It was a 20-year thing in Alaska, and the heron still ain't back.
The fisherman who's in the hospital, where was he working?
Outside of Venice, I believe. The plane sprayed him. What happened? The plane, they got kind of confused where the boats were at and where the plane sprayed. That's stuff they claim they're similar to Agent Orange, what they sprayed in Vietnam.
What did he say his symptoms were?
I didn't talk to him, but I talked to a guy that went visit him, and I believe it was eyes crying, shortness of breath, basically all the same symptoms that we read in the computer that you'll get from that disbursement they spraying,
I can't believe we just saw porpoise.
Oh, it's full of them. You'll see a bunch more. They said they found 19 of them dead already.
On shore, I speak with Dean Blanchard outside his shrimping facility in Grand Isle, Louisiana. I ask him to talk about how the BP oil spill has impacted the shrimping business.
Everybody's upset here. They put us out of business. We usually have 90 people working right now. We'd have 500-600 fishermen running around here. You couldn't be standing up right here if it'd be a regular day without BP,
So what did BP do? What do you think of what they did?
What did they do? They had 28 years worth of work, and they completely shut me down. They put me out of business.
How much of the water here is closed? How many of the beaches?
Everything's closed. For a boat to bring me seafood, he has to travel 14 hours.
What do you mean?
The closest fishing ground from here takes 14 hours to get to. So they effectively put a circle around me.
How long have you been shut down?
We never really got started. We never got started. You got to understand.